Good afternoon, this is Jeff with Sewer Tech Northwest. We are at 14265 Southwest Stallion Drive here in Beaverton. Located on the right side of the home, that's as you face the front door or the front of the house from the street, from Southwest Stallion Drive. That's how I will describe everything. So we're about perfectly halfway up the side of the house here. Big 4-inch ABS clean out. And check the overall condition and serviceability of the sanitary sewer line. Water's running, we are zeroed out, and off we go. Beautifully clean line right out of the gate. That is exactly how you want your line to look right there. That is the hallmark of a home that is minding their P's and Q's on not putting cooking oil and grease down the pipe. And a little schmaltz up on the top of the pipe here. We may be coming up on some issue up ahead. That kind of looks like the remnants of a past blockage. Yep, there should be. This is remarkable too. Not that it's necessarily related to this house, but very consistent thing in this neighborhood. Funny enough, I just did a sewer scope quite literally 150 feet down the street from this, where I just came from. The exact same issue in the exact same location. Also 21 feet from the house. So what you've got here is a transition joint, most likely. We'll see when we pop out. We're probably swapping over to concrete pipe right here. Oh, just like the other one, this one's going to probably stop me up here. This is getting into that realm where you start often getting into the right-of-way. Don't know that for sure yet, but we're kind of in that zone where the line will often transition pipe materials. And transition joints are infinitely weaker. Yep, there's your concrete pipe now. Way weaker to root intrusions than any other joint in your line. Little subterranean creature there, so obviously pretty harmless on its own, not going to do anything to affect functionality, but that is an indicator your pipe joints are open to the ground. Same thing when you see earthworms. Both are subterranean. You can see the dark staining at that pipe joint there, the dark ring. That is an indicator that moisture is seeping through groundwater. You've also got dirt coming to the joints too. So in the immediate, unless they're letting water escape the line, not something that's going to affect flow per se. The problem with it is you've got joints that are allowing groundwater to seep in. Cities don't love when the sewer line is conveying groundwater into the sewer system, but it makes your line obviously more susceptible to further root intrusion. It is also a scenario that can create for hydro erosion and cause the line to progressively settle over time, as those joints can allow groundwater and dirt to seep through them, and they can hydro erode the support out from underneath the sewer pipe and just suck it right through the sewer line. So here's our main here. Our water lines are just about level with the main. All right, we're gonna go locate, see where we are here. But as long as I can tell there's a level of settling in the concrete pipe. Thus far, it looks pretty minor. We'll see how it looks drained out. You know, let's say you hack the roots out of the way and you have a transition joint that is still true and it's not offset or something of that nature. And by and large, the line drains off completely or near complete. I would look into the prospect of an epoxy liner. In this case, you might retain a little bit of standing water, but it's a pretty insignificant amount as it sits right now. It's more of a question as to whether or not the liner can be cured amongst the standing water. I know with the new UV light cure systems, I think they have a much easier time doing that now. You know, and if it's the difference that, you know, some tiny belly that might be holding a quarter or half inch of standing water, that in my opinion is nowhere near worth tearing a gigantic trench open to correct. When it's already not causing problems. By the time you put a liner in there that's as smooth as glass, that standing water often becomes completely insignificant at that point. So we'll see how things look as we come back in. Alrighty, located the camera head successfully here. The line does a, not a total straight shot, but it does a shot out the right side out to the side street here. I'm trying to get the street name off the GPS. And goes out to Southwest Palomino. I did put a marking down there. You'll see a white T out in the street. and it's down there a ways. I'm getting right around 9 feet deep. So another reason to look into the prospect of the liner system. Now, I don't want to push back out now. I've got that bit of human waste. I don't want to gunk the lens up here. I have to redo this thing. It almost looks like the water line is just about level with the main. I think it's just barely off. A little bit of that water was backflowing. Anyway, you can see you've got a little bit of standing water right here. That's rinky-dink. In fact, that may have more to do with a little bit of debris sitting in the flow line than anything, but it may also be the very beginning of a belly. As long as you can cure epoxy up in that, which I don't think is going to be much of an issue here. Again, run that past those companies, make sure that's not a problem. But with just the thickness of the liner alone, if you went that route, it will displace all that standing water. It'll completely remove it. I can hardly call that thing a belly to begin with. I don't want to see anyone digging 9 feet deep to fix something like that. It would be silly. But I am recommending an update to the concrete pipe because all the joints are showing signs of being exposed to the ground at this point. Right now we're sitting just a couple feet from the street curb and the kind of the grass curb strip area where they plant all the street trees. You'll see a white arrow there and one where it crosses the curb. Getting 8 feet deep at that location. That is one serious root intrusion. That thing is humongous. From the looks of it, it's hard to gauge because of all the roots, but it looks like there's a little bit of a drop as you go into here. Most likely this is 6-inch concrete. Hard to guarantee without getting a proper visual on it. That is typically the case for this era though. 6-inch concrete is very normal. Sometimes you get 5-inch, more oddity size, but I would imagine that's probably that diameter. Anyway, if you go the route of the liner, which I would highly recommend looking into here, just seeing that the line essentially has proper slope and grade still, it looks like. Need to ream the roots out just to get a better look at this spot here, but it does look like something that has the makings of it. And you can do it however you want to. You can dig it up, pipe burst it, what have you. It's just one of those things I would look into. If you do go the route of doing a liner, ideally what I like to see done on these, because the transition joints are by far the weakest joints, and these trees are likely not going anywhere. So you do always run the risk of a re-intrusion even after a line is updated. The thing I like about epoxy lining is it is essentially a jointless pipe product. You don't have the same amount of weak points that the standard sewer line will have. You ideally start that liner back in here, you know, a few feet, 3 to 5 feet prior to the transition joint, and get a transition piece and line straight through it. So you get a nice continuous piece of pipe. It bolsters the joint up to root intrusions in the future. You're putting a layer right over the top of that seam. So nothing guarantees roots won't get in. They are a powerful force, but it's one of those things you can do to help. All right, and the transition here, I'm picking the locate up just before the line goes under as it makes its way down the hill, just before the retaining wall. In that spot there, I'm having a little harder time getting a good depth. The yard builds up considerably above the sidewalk. But my depths there were, I got 9.5, 10 feet. I had a couple times it jumped to 11 feet. The concrete pipe doesn't dive off terribly hard, so it would not surprise me one bit if it was actually that depth. You see how much higher the yard is built up above the sidewalk area. And I'll see if I can jump. The line swaps to 3-inch pipe right as you go backwards here. Now, I'm not going to beat the camera head up. I can at least see back through the foundation wall. That's mostly what I'm trying to look at here is the foundation. Everything from this point on is exposed piping in the crawl space. That's stuff the home inspector looks at. Yeah, it's so close to clean. I'm going to risk damaging the camera shoving through that. Anyway, line's looking good going back to the foundation. Another spot where settling issues can happen. Looking good there. Anyway, all this is all the concrete pipe there is marked with white paint. You'll see a T marking. The line kind of jaunts this direction towards the street corner and then turns just before getting to that tree. That tree right there is probably your culprit, most likely. Just before that tree, you can actually see a little depression in the ground there where I think this line may have been updated. Right before the wall, you'll see a white paint marking. In fact, you can kind of see it with the camera. And then from that point on, it runs out of the street there. Now, whether you do a trenchless style repair or a dig style repair, there's a lot of options on this because the concrete pipe it appears anyway, it's still graded proper. The root intruded area is a little harder to see, but as long as the pipe is generally intact there, you've got some options. You could epoxy line it, pipe burst it, and or dig it up the good old-fashioned way. If you go the excavation route, you want to make sure your rescope is being done, and it is especially important on a line this deep where there's that much weight on it. You want to rescope the line after the trench is closed. You want to get the whole thing buried, compacted, ready for concrete, asphalt pouring. Make sure the line looks good and hasn't settled, and then do your concrete and asphalt repairs after that point. You don't want to find out the line settled after you've already buttoned the entire thing up. ABS pipe here, all the black ABS prior to the concrete is in good condition, has great flow, nice and clean.